Why are we using a lecture by a public librarian in an academic libraries course? I've used this lecture a few times in this course and other classes because I find Melanie's story to quite be unique and resonate with many of us in this field, because most of us don't set out to become library directors. A few, but certainly not most. Melanie's rise to leadership is fascinating and should remind us that many times leadership is something you are going to stumble upon, and all of us should consider leadership as a career possibility. So Melanie's story is particularly important in academic libraries where there's a shortage of career librarians interested in leadership roles. So part of what we hope to do this week, and certainly when you take 704, is to have some of you to be intentional in pursuing leadership opportunities. Although you are interested in other areas of library services, it is something that you should consider as you build your careers going forward. This, of course, is a very unique moment in the history of libraries, certainly higher education. And you would say that at no moment in the history of academic libraries have libraries needed strong and visionary leadership as the case is today. Even prior to COVID, there were rapid transformational changes taking place in higher education.
I'm gonna hit the bomb sound on you, but
that created uncertainties and at times resistance by
did
some
you hear
librarians who may view some of the changes as unnecessary for an institution whose core mission has always been about providing information to users. In this case, in a college or university environment.
Dr. Kawul, drop a bomb on.
COVID obviously transformed higher educations in ways that will affect academic libraries for years to come. However, as you can imagine, every crisis
were you able to hear the sound?
Opportunities.
What's going on, everybody?
It's very important that for us as academic librarians, we take advantage of some of the opportunities that have arisen out of the COVID pandemic. We certainly want to emerge out of this crisis stronger and better prepared for the future. As you will recall, I talked about the director of an academic library who received a call from the university president to discuss ways in which the library could support the emergency online learning most institutions had to pivot to in the spring of 2020. Although that is a crisis situation, it also represents an opportunity for an academic library to play a more central role in the university's online teaching, online instruction. And those opportunities, although they happened in the context of a global pandemic, are ones that the university libraries must continue to pursue and remind folks on campus who are sort of returning to normal business as usual, to remind them that these are opportunities that can help the institution going forward. So given the prevailing environment, libraries need more leaders, probably more than managers. And we are going to talk about that in a moment. So yeah, before we venture into the specifics of leadership in LIS, we want to define a few key terms, or at least attempt to define those terms. The first is leadership and management. We shall do so by focusing on the differences and similarities between the two. The question is what is the difference between leadership and management? While the two terms are closely related, they mean different things in different contexts. Leaders tend to focus on the future and place of the organization in it. Management or managers tend to focus on the present and how best to utilize resources available to them today. Leaders are expected to be innovative as they help the organization navigate an uncertain future. To the extent that they innovate, managerial innovation often entails the allocation and utilization of resources available to them at the moment. Leaders tend to focus on change, while managers tend to focus on managing the complexities of the present. We can argue that we need individuals with leadership and managerial traits in the university, library directors, or deans. The question then is, what are those traits? How do individuals acquire the desired leadership and managerial traits? Which traits do we need most for different areas of academic libraries like administration, staffing, or human resource management, budgeting, crisis management, and other areas in academic library organizations? And finally, what kind of leaders will be needed in academic libraries of the future? The last question is particularly important for us as future librarians, academic librarians. Should we prepare not only to practice in areas like reference or cataloging, but also prepare to lead our organizations? That is, should academic library leadership and management come from within the academic field? Or are we too close to the institution and the field to ask of us of tough questions or institute changes necessary to navigate the turbulent higher education environment? We recruit the best innovative and visionary leaders from outside or inside the field to help our libraries deal with the current and future changes. Excuse me. Our reading this week addressed most of these questions. Some, like Peter Hannon's article, addresses what academic library directors do. Some of the findings across the four occurrences are surprising to librarians outside of leadership roles, fundraising being one of them. The other readings reveal more leadership and managerial considerations in academic environments. Although Melanie is not situated in academic libraries, I decided to use Melanie's lecture for the simple reason that her rise to leadership can be considered unorthodox, but also applicable to academic libraries. Her lecture was given about 3 years before she was elected to the prestigious president of Public Library Association in 2020. The recognition is the more reason why Melanie's ascendancy to leadership in the field is more significant. She is at the helm of one of the most innovative public library systems in the nation. I think hers is a good case of study. Is a good case study for anyone thinking about leadership in libraries. If you're not thinking about leadership, again, Melanie's story is a good reason why you should start considering leadership. You don't see a leader in you, Melanie's story should motivate you to become one, or at least to consider the possibility. Melanie is an excellent example of how people find personal traits that elevate them into leadership, of course, with help along the way. So as you review the readings, one of the considerations is how much leadership traits and what leaders do you need in academic libraries, and how much of these have changed over the years since 2004 when Peter Hannon published his article, to the more recent readings that are assigned this week. And finally, how has it changed since COVID started? Now that we are talking about not necessarily post-COVID, but different phase of the COVID pandemic, How have you seen sort of leadership and leaders and managers in academic libraries or libraries in general, or for that matter, in all other organizations, related organizations? How have those, leaders changed to adapt to the changing environment? Once again, I look forward to your insights on the above and other questions. I certainly look forward to your reactions to the readings for this week, and certainly to Melanie's incredibly inspiring and motivating story, which I hope some of you will give you pause to reflect on the possibility of becoming leaders in academic libraries. Have a great week.
Cool.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, mommy.
What's up, son?
You help me?
Help you with what, son? We want.
Ready. Ready. It's ready. So cut it, guys. Cut it, can there. Cutting it, can there. Ooh, he's heavy. So, cut it, good.
MLIS.
Cutting it.
What does that mean? That means we're getting kids ready for school as early as possible. So
Oh,
they go to school
hey,
and they don't fall
cut
behind.
it.
That we're doing high quality work in the summer so that kids are not falling behind in the summer and they're not having that summer slide that especially is detrimental to kids of color. That we're helping. When I got here in 2009, unemployment in Richland County was like 13%. And that's when we changed our third floor to a business and career center. And we started hiring career counselors and making sure we had staff that had skills to sit shoulder to shoulder with people and help them figure out how to either make their own living or to find a job. And about that and about the entrepreneurial piece of what we do is I just heard a statistic that within the next, I think it's the next 2 to 3 years, 50% of everybody is going to be, they're going to be freelancers. They're not going to be, people aren't going to have typical full-time jobs that give them benefits. They're going to be doing like side hustle after side hustle after side hustle and putting all these things together to make their work. How do libraries support people like that? And with our second floor program, our studio services, we're really focused on trying to figure out how do we help artists turn their passions and skills into a paying gig. So whether it's using our media lab to shoot their own photography, or whether it's using our sewing machines to sew their own products that they're selling, whether it's taking pictures of things they make at their house on Etsy so that they can put it online. That's kind of where we're focused, is how can we make sure that all those people that live in Richland County that want a job, need a job, don't have to wait for somebody to give them a job, they can create a job. So we're really focused on the entrepreneurial piece. We also are very focused, and this is where I think Dean Margaret and I had a lot of fun bouncing around ideas, is that, and this I also attribute to my husband and his our goofy dinner table conversations, is we're really focused on the customer experience. And we're really, really like, CJ's laughing over here, just so you know, just point that out. She works with him very closely, so she knows he's focused on that. But it's all about, who are we talking to? Who is our customer? What are they thinking and feeling and doing? What do they need from us? What are they trying to accomplish? And how do we create environments that meet those needs? And so much of that is just pure and simple marketing. It is about knowing who you're talking to, getting the data, analyzing the data, talking to people over and over again, not designing anything without prototyping it if you can, not designing anything without talking to the recipients of the service that you are trying to develop. We are really deep in that right now and are actually have a really exciting project. And this is where I think leadership comes in, because libraries are in this great space that we give everything away. We share everything. And so we're not competitive with each other, and we're really not competitive with anybody in the community. And sometimes it's hard for them to understand that. when you go to someone in the community and say, hey, I'd like to partner with you, sometimes they're like, are you trying to take my money? Or are you trying to, take my clients or my customers? Libraries are in this great space that we can go, no, we're not actually.
I think I'm going through that
we're
right
trying
now.
to help you reach more customers. We're trying to help you, maximize outcomes for your customers. And marketing is a big piece of that as well, because you have to know who you're talking to and who your neighbors are talking to and how that all works together. But because we share and because we give stuff away, because we're not trying to monetize everything that we do, we have this really great opportunity here at Richland Library. We have a very large grant from the Knight Foundation, and we are developing a tool that connects your library card account to a deeper kind of customer relationship management tool that we are developing. And it would be opt-in, it would be seamless. You wouldn't know that your library account, where all you can do now is see what you have checked out and paid your fines. Now it will say, you just did these things, here are 10 books that you might like. You just came to these 5 programs, here's $5 off of your fines. You just had an interaction with this librarian, here is a customized book list that she has made for you. We are developing that right now. My team is working with a team out of Denver, a design team out of Denver, to develop the tool, but we're partnering with Multnomah Public Library in Portland, Cleveland Public Library, DC Public Library, and Houston Public Library are beta typing the product that we're creating for us with their markets. So I say that because leadership is about giving it away. Sometimes leadership is about not worrying if you get all the credit for it, but it's about making it available to other people.
Good job.
And I think I'll just end with one quick thing and then take any questions. I have been doing a lot of thinking lately about what we are looking for as leaders in the library profession and what we're looking for as leaders in our own library system. And me and all the library directors in the States, we just got together a week ago and had a conversation about this, because the profession is aging. Library directors are retiring, and there's not a lot of people ready to step up and take, which is probably explains why I got promoted so blooming fast in 1999. That probably explains a lot. But so we've been doing a lot of thinking about what we look for in a leader and how do you know when somebody has that potential. And somebody asked me a question the other day. They said, well, how do people in your own library system know what a leader
just about to get my study on.
Like, how do they know what you're looking for? And I said, I don't know that I've ever articulated it. I hope they can tell by who I've promoted and who I've hired and who gets the cool projects, but I don't know that we've ever articulated it. So we've started to try to articulate it. And I'm just going to tell you a couple things that are really high on my list. For it doesn't matter. I don't think this is leaders. I want leaders in libraries to have this. I want leaders in any industry that I interact with to have this. I want government leaders to have this. First and foremost is empathy. And that gets right back to that customer experience model, right? If you can't put the person you're serving and try to understand how they feel in the center of what you're doing, you probably don't have any business developing a new service or product for them. Because you're not going to check all the boxes. No, sir. So empathy is probably first and foremost on my list of things I look for. Empathy is hard to hire for. It's like hard to ascertain when you're hiring. You see it in people's work and the way that they work. Another one that kind of goes right along with this, and I got to tell you, this one's really hard for me as a leader, and it's vulnerability. I was really fortunate to be a Liberty Fellow, which is an Aspen Global Leadership Network program here in South Carolina. I spent 2 years in a cadre of 20 leaders throughout the state, very diverse people in their ideological beliefs and very, backgrounds, but all South Carolinians.
Hey, bye-bye.
And it's hard when people are looking to you because they want to have confidence in you and they want to trust that you know what you're doing and that they want to believe in the direction that you're leading them in, to sometimes be vulnerable and to sometimes admit, hey, I don't know if we're doing this right or not. But I have found, because that's hard for me, I have found that I've got a really close knit of both staff that I can talk to in that way in my own organization, and I have some colleagues outside of my organization that are directors of other cultural or nonprofits or other libraries that I can talk to and say, have you ever come up against this and felt like you didn't know what to do? But and I will say as a woman, and some of you've heard my, CJ, I know you have heard my talk about being a woman and CEO, which is a whole different talk. Sometimes it's really hard for women to be vulnerable because we are trying so hard, to be assertive and to gain the respect and confidence of all of our colleagues. So sometimes I think it's harder for women. I wish more men were vulnerable in their jobs. I wish more men could do that and not feel uncomfortable about it. But I think sometimes it's really hard for women because we're trying so hard to be seen as accomplished. But I can't tell you how important it is because people need to know that it's messy. They need to trust you even when you don't have the answers. And they need to trust that no matter what happens, you're going to work hard to make it right. And you can say all those things and be vulnerable about that, I think is really important. I'm just going to stop. So I'm going to stop there and just take any questions or comments about anything. I won't, if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you.
So I have a question for you. So what experiences can students be seeking out now to develop leadership opportunities?
I think one of the things that I think is really cool when I get random calls every now and again from students, and they say, hey, can I just ask you about your leadership journey? Can I just ask you a few questions? You would not believe how many people in way more important positions than mine are so willing to talk to you and so willing to answer those questions. They love it. They love to do it. So don't be shy. Don't be shy. It might take you a little while to get on somebody's calendar, but don't be shy about just calling and saying, hey, could you talk to me about how you got to where you are? What do you recommend? And always ask them things like, what book would you recommend I read? Stuff like that. Just things where you can walk away with it with some real tangible kind of to-do things. Who else should I talk to? That's another great question. But I think if you do nothing else, just, over the next few years, pick a few people that you want to know about, people that you aspire to be like, and ask them those questions.
What do you do now to keep moving forward with your own leadership?
Wow, that's a good question. So I will say that I think that CEOs and directors are really guilty about not investing in themselves because we are so busy. We don't have time. We don't have time. We don't have time. I'm very painfully aware that my husband is staring at me right now. That I do tend to overextend myself. So I try to take advantage of things that come up that I know that I'm going to learn something from. I think that what I do more than anything that helps is when I know that, for example, we are really, right now, the library has been working we have a social awareness task force, and we've trained about 12 of our staff to be really strong facilitators about really difficult conversations. So for the past 6 months, we have focused on race, and actually, I think there's a race conversation coming up in our whole magazine. If you've seen our new Access magazine, it is all about conversations about race. I know I'm a white woman, and that if I'm going to stand up and talk about race to people and inclusion, then I need to do my homework. So that means I need to talk to people, that I need to read. I've started reading a lot of the Race Matters Institute work. I've talked to my friends in other counties who are doing work with the Governmental Association for Racial Equity. I'm looking for conferences and things that I can tap into that will help me. So I'm constantly, like a good librarian and a good student, I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly trying to figure out what don't I know about this? And if we're gonna do this authentically, what do I need to know as the library director? So I read things, I talk to a lot of people, I call people and ask questions. I talk to my board. My board of trustees is a great source of information for me, especially about local issues. So I ask a lot of questions, and I also rely on my staff who have a lot more expertise in some of these areas than I do, especially now that we have just such a diverse group of staff working for us that have a lot of different backgrounds that aren't all librarians. Some are social workers, some are career counselors. So they've got other specialties that I can rely on.
You talked about being an executive position as a woman. You talked about the executive position without necessarily a lot of background sort of being put into that one. The other thing I'm always struck by, particularly with public library directors, is being proactive as a CEO in a governmental company.
Mhm.
right? Because you talk about marketing, you talk about what the community needs, and yet you're working in a government that oftentimes takes this idea of either being neutral or being waiting for help, sometimes being called unhelpful.
Right,
I'm just wondering how you navigate that, because, not that anyone needs to say it, but Richland Public Library is an innovative group. Taking those race conversations is not ignoring hard issues.
right.
And it means that you need to really lead and push forward. I'm wondering, how does that jive with, then, once again, being part of local government?
Wow. So every library system in South Carolina is a county, somehow related to county government. And I guess fundamentally, I don't believe government should be the way that it is. So I don't really believe they should be acting in the way that they act. So I don't subscribe to the fact that they should be, so I'm not trying to align myself with the way our county council or our county administration or our county, elected officials or city elected officials act or behave or act about, say, information or services. I respect the fact that in our system in South Carolina, the county council has two main responsibilities: to fund the public library system and to appoint my board. And that's pretty much it. And I'm very respectful of their role in those two regards. And I work really hard to build good relationships with local elected officials. I give them all the credit and none of the blame. And I've not found that in this situation that there's a tension there. And quite the opposite. I've actually done a customer experience workshop for the city of Columbia and for Richland County because they know their customer service and their customer experience focus needs improvement. And they look to the library to say, how are you doing that? How do you show us how to do that? Now, when we worked in St. Paul, I worked for the mayor. So it was a different situation altogether. The mayor was my boss. He appointed me. I was part of his cabinet, which meant me, the chief of fire, chief of police, health department, parks and rec. We were all in the mayor's cabinet. And that was a little bit of a different dynamic. And I would say that there's something I really like about a strong mayor system, and I really liked working for a strong mayor because that was, there was no district turf. There was no, if you do this for this neighborhood, you've got to do it for this one. It wasn't like that. If Mayor Coleman said, we're going to eliminate crime and poverty in Frogtown, then me, the chief of police, the fire, we all went in that direction. We all aligned together to work on that one problem. So that was a little bit of a different dynamic. But I think the best thing you can do, knowing, there is a book that I read, it's called something like Working in Government in the first 90 days of government or something like that. They basically tell you how not to step in it. It's basically be careful and, schmooze with these people and do this thing. And I think, elected officials, I think their intentions are good. They get into it for the right reasons and they do want a certain amount of deference and respect, which you have to give whether you think they deserve it or not. You do that. And I think as long as you're keeping them in the loop and you're, letting them know about what's going on in their neighborhoods because they don't always know. And we were in their neighborhoods. I mean, I don't ever want one of my county council members to see that there's been a shooting in their neighborhood outside of the library parking lot on the news. They're going to get a phone call from me that says, hey, I wanted you to know that this happened. If you have any questions, let me know, or whatever. So I think it's just, it's all about relationship building. But I don't think people in Richland County, even though they know it when they get their property tax bill that we're part of government, I don't think that they walk around every day equating the work that we do with government. I just don't think that's their perception. I could be wrong about that, but their property tax bill will tell them that it is.
I guess the reason I asked that question was just having a discussion before about the recent report talking about most trusted people in communities and reporters and such, and libraries are right at the top. And I'm just wondering, so what's interesting is I look at what Richland's done, I look at other libraries, it's because they're proactive and they have the view of government as someone to serve.
Yes, so I'm glad you framed it in that way because that's really important. there are a lot of things that some politicians would call unfunded mandates that the library does. So this is a small example, but it's just a microcosm of something bigger. So a couple years ago, Department of Employment and Workforce decided that they weren't going to let anybody file for unemployment in person anymore. So if you were out of work in South Carolina, the only way that you could file for unemployment was online. Now you could call during office hours and be on the phone with somebody while you were online filing for unemployment. So think about that for a minute. You've got, this is putting the person in the center. So the person that is the most stressed they've probably ever been in their life, they've lost their job, they have to figure out how to file unemployment. They can't go anywhere and look somebody in the face and do it. And so we immediately got training on how to file for unemployment. We went through the process, we got some staff trained on it so that people had a humane place to come where they could sit down with someone, they would show you how to do it. So that's one example. Another really small example, the federal IRS decided they weren't going to print out tax documents anymore and give them away like, Kleenexes, that you had to do it online or print them out on a computer. What does that mean for someone living at home with no broadband, no computer, when they can't go to their local post office anymore and pick up the tax form? So these are two little tiny things, but sometimes my staff walks around saying, if not us, who's going to do it? If we don't do it, who is going to do it? If we don't lead these conversations about race in our community, who is going to step up and do it? If we don't have social workers in the library helping people get SNAP benefits, where is that happening? From 9 to 9, 7 days a week. So some people push back against that. And I've certainly had council members that say, why are you doing that? That's not your job. That's not your job to help people get work. That's not your job to whatever. And then you name it. And my response has always been, when everybody in Richland County that wants a job has a job. When everybody in Richland County that wants a home has a home. When every child in Richland County goes to school ready to read and ready to learn, and when every kid graduates from high school and the plan for after high school will stop. We will drop the mic and walk away. But it's not happening. And so we can't sit back and do nothing, right? Or can we? Because I'd be a lot more refreshed if we could. I'd be bored.
Lots of the
How do you
connection.
feel like mentorship has played a part in your role as like a leader? And then sort of on the flip side of that, how do you lead well? Like, do you use mentorship to help you like lead well?
So I'm just gonna get that. I'm a lousy mentee. Lousy. So I knew somebody was gonna ask me this question and I tried to think of a better answer, but I don't have it. Everybody always says, go out and get a mentor. Well, I'm one of those people that didn't join a sorority because I can't be forced into a relationship with somebody. I can't be like, this is your sister now. You will sing these songs and love each other forever. It needs to be more authentic. So I guess I never had a mentor because I wasn't proactive about finding one. Now, did I have lots of people that I relied on for advice and counsel? But did I ever say, you're my mentor? Did I ever say, you're my mentee? That never happened. Never happened. So I admire people who have these long-standing mentor-mentee relationships. I'm so jealous of those because I never had that. And also I'm a bad mentee because I don't want to bother people. I don't want to bother people with my problems, so I'll just go solve it myself rather than. So I did have an executive coach one time, and after working with me for like 3 months, he said, you are horrible. You are just wasting your money with me because you're not using me the way that you should. And so all that is to say that if you find somebody whose advice and style and guidance that you trust, I would say don't worry about making it this formal thing. Just have coffee with them once a week or once a month or once every 2 months or have a phone call. Just have someone outside of your field or outside of your sphere of, especially when you're working. You probably don't want that person to be in your organization, but as a student, it's just somebody maybe you really trust their advice and guidance. And I don't think it matters so much whether you call them your mentor or not. But there's lots of people that I've looked up to and ask questions of. And even now, if I have specific types of questions, I have different people that I go to for that kind of advice. What I try to do is, as the director, my focus has been more about setting policy and practice within my organization that is supportive of my staff. So while we have this really cool library system and we do lots of amazing things, I'm really most proud of the stuff that you don't know about or don't see. It's the stuff that we've done. We have paid family leave at the library. We, have combined all of our sick time and vacation time into PTO, which sounds like a no-brainer, but believe me, it was a little stressful, but we did that. We have flex time. I have my front-end developer on our website. He lives in Virginia full-time. I mean, so we're doing things to try to really make people's lives better that work for us. And I'm talking about empathy and being vulnerable. I have a lot of women. There's a lot of women in our profession, a lot of women that work for me, a lot of women that are having kids. And I'm just very conscious of the fact when they come to me and say, there's something I have to tell you. And the look on their face is always like, they're just devastated. I'm like, what is it? They're like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh my God, that's great. That's amazing. How much time are you going to take off? It's just trying to create an atmosphere where they trust me and they can talk to me and they know that I have their back. And I think that's, there are several people that I am grooming for the next director, whether it's here or somewhere else. There are several people that I'm investing a lot of time and energy in like that. But as a whole, I just try to create an authentic workplace where people aren't scared to say this isn't working, or I screwed this up, or I'm pregnant. Oh my God, I'm scared to say that. Why is it something to be scared of? So those kind of things. Any other questions? I'm kind of watching the time. Yeah. Okay.
So you talked about before when you first got into after library in high school, you didn't know where you wanted to be in 10 years. So my question for you now is, where do you see yourself and the community in 10 years?
So I'm going on having the longest job I've ever had. This is my 9th year as the library director here, and I was in Charlotte for 10 years, although I had 3 different jobs in 10 years. I don't know. I mean, I think I am really passionate about Columbia. I'm very passionate about this state. I'm very passionate about the work that needs to be done on racial equity in the state of South Carolina. That is becoming more and more something that lights my fire every day when I get up, which is, how can we eliminate those disparities that are such a deep, deep-rooted part of the state's history? And so I want to keep doing that work. And I'm really passionate about women's issues as well, and trying to help, especially women that want to be leaders and women who just want to have as someone said, if you want to have a fast-paced job and kids, or fast-paced kids in a job, there's got to be some balance there. And I do actually a lot of talking about that issue and about how it isn't pretty and it's not fair, but there are a lot of things that we can do to make it better. So those are the 2 things that I still want to be working on or talking about. And I'm also really passionate about education. I had in public school is what I'm talking about. I had lunch yesterday with a school board member, and she said, you should think about being a superintendent one day. And I about choked on my sandwich, because that's a thankless job. And those people are just, wow, man. I give it to them. They're great. But I am passionate about education. I had such a good time working with Lower Richland High School, who is an alum right here, Lower Richland High School students this year, being in the classroom with those kids. I was just like, man, I could do this every day, even though I was exhausted after I walked out of the classroom. So I'm really passionate about where kids have access to things that light their fire too. And I'll just tell you one more quick story. We have 3 children, JC and I have 3 kids, and they're all very different styles of learning, all very different interests. And my oldest is like crushing it in college right now. She just started, so we're still a little touch and go there. So she's crushing it. She hated high school, hated middle school, thought it was a big waste of her time. Does anybody feel, what? I can't see, how does this happen? I loved high school. I was a cheerleader. But she hated it. And she was like, Mom, I gotta get out of here. I've got to get out of here. She felt like that for 7 years. 7 years. And then you have all these crazy things like, we must go to school for 180 days. For what? She was bored out of her, it's not like she's brilliant. She was bored. She was like, this doesn't interest me. There's nothing here that I'm interested in. That breaks my heart, because our kids were fortunate enough to have parents that could pay for lessons in something outside of school, that could pay for her to be to fencing, which is the most expensive sport ever, maybe second to lacrosse. That could pay, that could take her to the theater to be an apprentice. All of that stuff that we did for her outside of the classroom. That was a luxury, but it also made me so angry that every child doesn't have that kind of exposure. So I don't know where I'm going to be 10 years from now, but those are the things that I still want to be talking about, and I want to see us make some progress in those areas, especially in Columbia and in South Carolina.
I think we have time for one last question.
You're talking about library as a place to kind of talk about information about government does affects people, healthcare, tax policy, even a place perhaps to talk about contentious issues like race. It sounds like you're describing an institution that every community used to have. It's called a newspaper. And so have you ever thought about publishing a newspaper? If you do, we have some journalism students. We'd love to send it over and get
There are
y'all.
a lot of similarities in what is going on in libraries and journalism right now. I think they're the two groups, the two professions that actually care about facts, that actually care about an informed dialogue. Someone interviewed me, and I believe she is a journalism student. I can't remember what it's for now, but she just interviewed me. And she said that on the phone, and she said, well, I'm probably in one of the last print journalism classes that there is. And that just kind of makes me sad because I always thought I wanted to work for a paper or something like that. And I'm like, it's not about the medium, it's about the craft of, you're a writer. You're a writer. Why does it matter whether it's print or not? So, but there still is this, when I go to the Knight Foundation, just so in case you're aware or not aware of this, the Knight Foundation's focus is media and libraries. They focus on those two things, and they host a conference in Miami every February. And usually the librarians and the journalists are there for one overlapping day. And it is, it's a big week fest sometimes. It's kind of sad. But at the same time, we're all very passionate about these issues in our communities and solving these problems. I thought what you were going to ask me was this, and I just have to end with this because this has really been bothering me about our profession as a librarian, is that, we're doing a lot of things. We have a lot of town hall meetings with elected officials at the library, and there's been some pushback from some staff. It's like, well, we're not supposed to be political. We're supposed to be neutral. The library's supposed to be neutral. And I'm like, we're not ideological, but we are not neutral. We have opinions.
Amen.
Girl.
And so as long as we are trying to still expose people to a diverse group of opinions, there's no reason why we can't do some of the kind of more, as one of my
Good morning.
board members likes to say, he's a reverend, he likes to say, we're doing things that trouble the waters. And I'm totally okay with that.
Melanie, thank you so much.
This is library, my master's in library and information science.
So Melanie's going to be here. You should have individual questions. There's food in the back, and thank you all.
This is I'm currently a student for my master's in library and information science. Those are my children in the background. So right now I'm studying in the course of academic libraries. I'm currently a public librarian or public library manager. I'm an author. What's on, Mama? Nice. Good job, son. Nice. Yep. Good job, son. Proud of you. Aminata, what's wrong, Mama? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong, my baby? Huh? I'm in South Carolina. Oh yeah. You okay now? You okay now? But yeah, I'm in South Carolina. Yeah, I'm studying academic libraries and research design this semester. Nice. Yeah. What letters are those? P. Yep, that one's a P. What else do you see? What other letters do you see? Blue. Well, that's a color. I mean, that is blue. Good job, son. What do you see any other letters? O. That is an O. Good job, son. E. I. That's a Y, and that's an exclamation point. It looks like an I. It's an upside. It's an upside down I, isn't it? N. Good job. D. O. O. T. O. T. O. Yep. D. O. What's that one? Q. Good job. Which one was that one? E. P. Mm-hmm. A. Good job. E. Good job. A. Good job. Good job, son. Nice. What part of India? What part of India are you from? Aren't they though? Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Nice. So you said it's the morning over there, huh? It's what time is it right now? It's 7:38 p.m. over here. I invite you to subscribe to my channel. Monthly, I do a podcast here called The Philosopher's Study. I just speak on different philosophical topics and things like that. We had our first episode on the 23rd, and we're going to have the next one, I believe, February. Oh, what's up, baby? February 18th or 15th, I believe. And I would love for you to come be a part of that. Learn from some different perspectives. I've studied a bit of Indian philosophy, if you will, if you forgive my possible mispronunciation of the Sanatana Dharma. I've studied under Paramahamsa Yogananda for his teachings for quite some time, like when I was in college and a little bit after college. Learned some meditation techniques. The Hong Saw meditation. I didn't get to Kriya Yoga, but definitely studied it. The Bhagavad Gita is one of my favorite scriptures. Matter of fact, I have a copy. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out, doggy. Back up. You guts, back up. Have me a copy right here. This is Swami Prabhupada's version or interpretation with it. So I've studied a bit of with the Hare Krishnas and everything like that as well. Girl, what's the problem? What's the problem? Nothing. You bluffing. You want a muffin? Want some stuffing? Oh, 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 oh. Aminata. 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 That's my baby. Boom, me, No, I've never been to India. I would love to go. I would love to visit India. It's on my bucket list, you know. Thank you so much. She a little fussy baby, but that's my baby. Bum, bum, bum. Son, come on, man. Oh, come on, boy. Oh my goodness.
So it's
Oh my God.
gonna kill shh. That didn't enough.
Aminata.
Boo boo boo. Boo boo. Boo
I would love to.
So,
Have you ever been to the States?
yeah. So.
Have you ever been to the United States?
Hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Oh no. Say what? I'm quiet.
I'm crying, ain't it?
I'm
Nah, no, mama. What's wrong with your sister? What's wrong with your little sis?
Amy.
I mean,
Sleep. Ha. Over.
nah, leave that alone.
Whoop.
Oh. Woo. Got you. Go over there and see where mommy at. Make up your mind, baby. Make up your mind, lady. Oh, Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me. Oh, Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun. Malik Shakur, I told you to leave that alone. No, sir. No, no, no. Oh, yeah? I don't have a Discord. I'm not even sure what that is, to be honest with you. I've heard of Discord, but I'm not quite sure what that is. Is that what is that? Is that like another social media site? Pew you. Pew 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 pew. Pew you. Yeah. 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 You okay, baby? You sleepy? Is that what it is? I mean, not you getting sleepy? Oh, I love you too. I love you. Do you have children? Ah, I see. It's so similar to WhatsApp. Ah, okay. I got you. I see. Yeah, I'm married with 2 children. My little babies here. I got a son and a daughter. And all right, my boy. And 2 fur babies. We have a dog and a cat. And we got 4 chickens in the back. Yes, mama. Your brother had that first. Here, you had this one. There you go. Y'all play nice. All right, let's see. See if there's any other. Are you in school? What's wrong, baby girl? Oh my goodness. Where are you? Here I am, here I am. How do you do? I think I remember that one. Here I am. I'll be honest, huh?
Full-time equivalent students. I'm really lucky to be the subject liaison.
Here I am, here I am. How do you do?
In the School of Policy and Government. We have over 900 undergraduates and about the same number of graduate students. I have worked here for about a year now.
Nice.
I graduated from SLIS in
what job position are you gonna have in the government?
18, and now and I started my job June of 2019. So I'm really pleased to be continuing to be finished my first year, and now in my second year, I am temporarily in charge of the social sciences team. So I received a temporary management position due to my direct supervisor
All right,
going
here,
on
son.
parental leave. So
The boy screaming
really
bloody
good
murder
opportunity
over
for
here.
me. So my liaison duties
Back up.
are kind of in 4 different areas: reference, instruction, outreach, and collection development. And this was my first academic library job. I worked in the library when I was an undergraduate, and
How do you do?
I received another master's degree in my subject area. So I was hired with 2 master's degrees, one in library science and one in international relations. So I would say the areas that I was most skilled at are reference and
Here I am,
outreach
activities.
activities. I came from a public policy kind of background, but did not have as much instruction and collection development experience. So what I learned from being in the academic libraries course, which was really one of the most helpful classes that I took at SLIS, perhaps the
Give that back to your
most
sister.
valuable was when I completed the librarian scholarship portion because I actually chose to study George Mason University as one of the R1 research universities to see their tenure and promotion process. And so now I literally use that all the time because I'm preparing my own review and promotion materials and looking into opportunities for doing research and publication. So take the time to really think about what kind of schools that you want to work at and do as much research as you can. I remember I did a chat interview with one of the librarians there for the project, and now I work with them. So that's pretty cool. The syllabus for 729 is pretty well organized into these kind of areas that I work with on a regular basis. However, it might behoove you to do additional research, especially in those areas that you're not as familiar with. For me, I had never set foot in a higher education classroom as an instructor. And so creating my own lesson plan for library instruction for the one-shot deal of coming into a class was new to me. And I immediately was put in there by myself without someone else. So solo teaching was a new experience for me. And it wasn't something that I took as a class in SLIS, but if you can find a class like that to like practice instruction in front of other students, that would be super helpful when you take on a library job in an academic library, on front of the house at least. Another thing is assessment. Assessment activities are not something I was familiar with prior to starting my work in an academic library, so I recommend reading through the ACL framework really very specifically and thinking about outcomes as they relate to your desired library position, and how you would do surveys or quizzes or ways to look in the classroom to work with students to figure out if they've met the outcomes, if you've taught them what they need to learn in terms of information literacy. The other thing I didn't have any experience in is collection development, which I know is a part of the 729 syllabus, but if there's just any additional reading you can do on your own for your own discipline, I highly recommend it. I was basically given a huge sum of money and
just subscribe to my channel here. I go live
did not
quite
have a
often.
good sense of how
We can link here.
compared to print resources and what kind of expenses our subscriptions were. So that's definitely been something that I learned as I go along. So as much as you can do pre-reading, that would be really helpful. Trends in academic librarianship, I'm sure you're covering a lot of those right now. Diversity, equity, inclusion is a very important part of the conversation in academic libraries. Who are we hiring as librarians, and how are we meeting the needs of a diverse student body and student population? So I encourage you to get involved in that. They're really important conversations to go beyond statements for racial and
I'm also on
racial equity and
Facebook.
inclusion. Another thing we're
I'll
studying
subscribe
right
to
now
you.
is
Subscribe to me. I'll
data
subscribe to
and
you.
quantitative methods more in social sciences that may not apply for every discipline, but having data-based research is super important for any kind of library research. So pay attention in research methods as well, and try to do something as close to what you actually want to study in your position as you can, and that will really help you when you're on the job. My last piece of advice is try to look for mentors. If you're fortunate like me to get a position right away in an academic library, I encourage you to seek out someone who's fairly new to the organization who can kind of guide you along, even if there isn't a formal mentorship program. And also, if you're not able to get a job right away, maybe you can shadow or find folks who are working
Just
in the kind
subscribe
of
to you.
libraries that you want to be in and ask them questions, because we're always really happy to help. You can reach out to me via my email if you have any further questions or want to pick my brain some more. Thanks for listening.
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make
Are you on Facebook? I ain't hear a word this lady was saying. Peace, peace. I can understand that. Trust me. Ain't much on there. All right, I'm about to get back to more studying and all that good stuff. Yes, I am on Instagram, the People's Librarian. I'm gonna type it in there. Stop that. Where'd you get that from? As long as you're sharing with your sister, I guess. But it was nice meeting you. I'm gonna talk to you later. I got to do the writing portion of this bad boy, and so I can be done with the assignments for tonight to continue moving forward. I will holler at you, Sanskar. Hope I said your name correctly, but I will talk to you soon. Be sure you subscribe to my page here. I'm gonna be doing more time on this page here going forward, and yeah. So hopefully we'll see each other again, and I will talk to you later.